Hi, I'm Diana Montford, the world's first transgender television journalist. Born male, became female. Today we are doing the 2017 Day of Remembrance, the day we read a list of trans folk who have been murdered. We read it every year, and this wonderful list was compiled by my guest, Ms. Juli Grey-Owens, who is a transgender activist, as is Ms. Tanya A. who is another transgender activist. And we are going to start now. But before we do, it's not all doom and gloom. In the recent election on November 7th, several trans women won elected office, one of whom won, Danica, something or other, won in a bathroom state, i.e. a state where we trans folk are forbidden to use the bathrooms of our choice. That no doubt will change, thanks to our wonderful new trans politician. So even though this can be somewhat depressing, it is not all gloom and doom, as I've said. There is hope. We are making strides. We are progressing. And now, shall we read the 2017 Transgender Day of Remembrance, those we have lost? Julie, if you'll start.
All righty. Misha Campbell, 41, Canton, Mississippi, died January 4th. Misha Caldwell's body was found on a rural road near Canton, Mississippi. She had been shot several times.
Jamie Lee Wounded Arrow, 28, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, died January 1st. The member of the Oglala Lakota tribe was described by police on January 6th in her apartment. Investigators believe her death to be homicide that occurred on or about January 1st.
Sean Ryan Hake, or Hockey, 23, Sharon, Pennsylvania, died January 6th. The victim was killed in his home by the police.
Jojo Stryker, 23, Toledo, Ohio, died February 8th. Stryker's body was discovered in an abandoned garage on February 8th in her hometown of Toledo. She suffered a single gunshot wound to her torso.
Tiara Lachey, the Boss, Richmond, 24, Chicago, Illinois, died February 21st. The victim was shot in the chest, arm, and hand by a person she was riding with. The suspect fled the vehicle, and police found Richmond lying on the ground when they arrived.
Kiki Collier, a.k.a. Tiara Richmond, age 24, died in Chicago, Illinois, on February 22nd. The victim was found lying in the street with wounds to the chest, arm, and hand. She was pronounced dead at a nearby hospital.
China Gibson, a.k.a. China Doll Dupree, 31, New Orleans, Louisiana, died February 25th. Police found Gibson's body lying in the parking lot of a shopping center in New Orleans. She had been shot multiple times and was pronounced dead on the scene.
Sierra McElveen, 26, New Orleans, Louisiana, died February 27th. Police officers responded to a stabbing scene and found the victim suffering from several knife wounds. She was taken to a local hospital where she later died from her injuries. Witnesses told police that they saw a man get out of a black car, got something out of the trunk, walked to the passenger side of the vehicle, stabbed the victim, and then dragged her from the car. The suspect then slammed her head to the ground, got back into the vehicle, and drove away.
Jaquarius Holland Brown, 18 years of age, Monroe, Louisiana, died February 19th. Police officers arrived at the scene and found the victim lying unconscious with a single gunshot wound to the head. The investigation would reveal that Malcolm Derek Tavios Harvey got into a verbal altercation and shot Jaquarius Holland. Harvey fled the scene prior to the arrival of the police.
Alfonso Watson, 38, Baltimore, Maryland, died March 22nd. Police found the victim suffering from a gunshot wound to the stomach and took her to a nearby hospital where she died shortly thereafter. Witnesses said they heard someone yelling for help, heard shots, and then saw two men get into a car and speed away.
Chevis Reed, 28, Miami, Florida, died April 21st. Witnesses reported that Reed was shot in the stomach while running across the street. One person reported that he heard 6 to 7 gunshots. Police confirmed they found multiple shell casings at the scene. Her attacker fled the scene and is still at large.
Kenneth Bostic, 59, New York, New York, died May 4th. On the evening of April 25th, the victim was found unconscious and lying in the street after being brutally assaulted. She, that's what it says here.
Yeah. There was a question about that person's gender.
Their identity, yes.
Yeah, it is he.
He was taken to Bellevue Hospital where he
died.
died on May 4th. Police arrested 26-year-old Joseph Griffin a day after Bostic died. Investigators say Griffin, who's been arrested 28 times, bashed Bostic's head with a pipe. Griffin has been charged with manslaughter in the case.
Cheryl Faulkner, 46, Charlotte, North Carolina, died May 16th. Faulkner was assaulted in November of 2016 and died of her injuries on May 16th. She was originally found near a dumpster in one of Charlotte's gay-friendly neighborhoods, but an arrest was never made. Police have ruled her death a homicide.
Kenneth McFadden, age 27, San Antonio, Texas, died April 9th. Found dead in the San Antonio River April 9th. But her death was not classified a homicide until June.
Kendra Marie Adams, a.k.a. Josie Berrios, age 28, Ithaca, New York, died June 13th. The victim's body was discovered in a partially constructed building in the College Town neighborhood near Cornell University. Her body was partially burned and was found near a can of gasoline in the building. Video evidence led police to arrest 45-year-old Michael Davis on 2 counts of second-degree felony murder and 1 count of felony arson. Davis has pled not guilty.
Ava LeRae Barron, 17, Athens, Georgia, died June 25th. Barron died after an altercation with Jalen Brown, an acquaintance. Brown shot Barron in the chest during an argument. Brown is charged with murder and aggravated assault.
Ebony Morgan of Lynchburg, Virginia, died July 2nd. The victim, suffering from multiple gunshot wounds, was transported to a nearby hospital where she was pronounced dead.
T.T. Dangerfield, 32, College Park, Georgia, died July 31st. The victim was found with multiple gunshot wounds outside of her vehicle near a College Park apartment complex in Atlanta. She was transported to the hospital where she died. Tyrone Kemp was arrested on August 22nd and charged with intent to kill.
Guinevere River Song, 26, Waxahachie, Texas, died August 12th. Police reports state the victim was shot by another adult in their home and was pronounced dead at the scene. There are scant details on what happened in the home or led to the shooting. The other adult on the scene was wounded and taken to the hospital.
Kiwi Herring, St. Louis, died August 27th. Herring was shot by police after they responded to a domestic call. According to police, Kiwi had a knife. When they entered the apartment, she allegedly slashed one of the responding officers who fired on her, leaving her dead at the scene.
Allie Steinfeld, 17, Kansas City, Missouri, died September 3rd. Found dead on September 20th. The victim was killed by multiple stab wounds, including to her eyes and genitals. Her killer had burned her body to conceal evidence of the crime. 4 people have been charged in this murder.
Kashmir Nazir Red, 28, Gates, New York, died September 4th. Red was stabbed multiple times by her partner Doris Carrasquillo and succumbed to those injuries. The 40-year-old Carrasquillo has been charged with first-degree manslaughter in this case. According to local sources, Red and Carrasquillo had been together for several months.
Derica Banner, 26 years old, Charlotte, North Carolina, died on September 12th. The victim was found shot and killed in a vehicle. Montavious Sanchez Berry, 18, was later arrested and was charged with murder, armed robbery, shooting into an occupied vehicle.
Excuse me. Scout Schultz, 21, Atlanta, Georgia, died September 16th. Schultz was allegedly carrying a knife and yelling to the police to shoot. The officers provided multiple commands, but Schultz did not comply. Subsequently, one officer fired, striking Schultz. Schultz was taken to the nearby hospital and later died.
Stephanie Montez, 47, Robstown, Texas, died September 28th. The victim was shot to death from wounds in the chest, abdomen, and shoulder. The investigation is ongoing.
Candace Towns, 30, of Macon, Georgia, died on October 31st. She was found shot to death at the end of a driveway.
26 trans murders that we know of, perhaps more. This is the list as it stands, as far as we know, on November 10th, 2017, which is when we're filming this, to be shown on November 16th. If there are any trans murders we've missed, we will read those next year. Wouldn't it be wonderful if there were no trans murders next year and we just sat around talking about makeup tips or something?
Right.
Yeah.
That would be wonderful.
You know, it's terrible, but just the fact that we are acknowledging this is a good thing, because we are holding people accountable for this, and that's not usually the case. Because I don't know about you, but I've heard of very few of these murders on the mainstream news.
Well, as you can see, a lot of them were not solved or even in the process of being solved. But I think that there's an important thing for us to do, and by saying their name, we remember them and we honor them. And I think that's the most important thing that we're doing tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's the best way to bring them back to life. However, some of these murders were done to trans people with mental illness, and that should sound the alarm that we need better mental health care for trans folk. We need culturally competent health care for trans folk, and for them to live, safer, longer lives.
It's very easy to be mentally ill when you're despised by most people and everyone wants to kill you. So I'm not surprised that a lot of trans people are quote-unquote mentally ill. Maybe they're just sensibly reacting to most people's hatred and urge to kill.
Well, there is another side to it, though, and the other side to it is that services for transgender people have been limited, continue to be limited. If we don't look at this as well as employment, as well as housing,
exactly,
we are going to continue to have a community that is just completely downtrodden. For so many years, we were thought of as a throwaway community. And I think that it's important for our community to gain pride, to gain recognition. And this is one of the reasons why we read these names, is to remember these people who we've lost through no fault of their own. I think another issue that's very important, and we have to speak about it, is when I went through this list, I can't even use the word majority I need to say almost all of these people were people of color. And for those of us who are privileged, we need to speak out for our brothers and our sisters and our family of our community. We need to do the work.
But isn't that also the case? I mean, so many people of color are murdered by the police just because they are people of color, trans or non-trans.
Yes.
I mean, Black Lives Matter, but apparently not to the white police. What do you think of this?
What do I think? I just, I think that, you know, us calling these names humanizes these people that we lost. You know, it puts, you know, and how they were killed and everything, you know, the viciousness.
There's a the one I read was horrific. 4 people accused of stabbing someone in the eyes and the genitals and
Trying to burn the body.
oh my God! I mean, what is this? This is real hatred. This is not just bang bang you're dead. This is like real rage and hatred. You know?
It's called overkill.
Yeah.
And overkill is defined as you just said, it's not only the fact that I want to kill you, it's the fact that I want to destroy your body. And I want to use your body as a warning to anyone who might think that that's the path to take. And make sure that you know that I'm going to come and get you too. So it's not just a situation of, I don't like you, bang, you're dead. It's I want to destroy you. And I want to leave trace so that everyone knows that this is what's going to happen to you if you decide to be out and to be about.
Well, and you know, I mean, this is really just, as you've pointed out, at least we are naming the names and holding someone somewhere accountable for murdering these people. This is really insane, you know, I mean, and they were killed mainly because they were trans, and that's it. Just because they were trans. A bunch of crazy guys getting into a car and saying, hey, look, there's a faggot, yeah! And that's it, you know?
Well, there could
And
also
someone
be
who had
more
a
to it.
family and was loved and had friends dies in the street because some guys had a few too many beers and it's Saturday night and they want to have fun.
Well, there's more to even than that, though. The other issue is that because our community cannot get employment, cannot make jobs,
Exactly.
there is probably at least a few people on this list that needed to do survival sex in order to have a place to maybe stay or a place, or just physically to be able to have a meal,
Exactly,
to have food.
yes.
And so, as we all understand that that's a very dangerous business. Our community needs jobs, our community needs health care,
We
our
also
community
need
needs
education.
housing.
I've
and we need
interviewed
education,
people
yes.
who have quit school, and I asked, well, why? They said, well, because I was so bullied, and they just quit school, and they were like 12 or something.
Absolutely.
And nobody cared, and aren't there truant officers? I mean, nobody cared, no one went looking for them. They just quit, and they have no education, and they have no paper trail because they've never had an on-the-books job, so they have no social security card, no tax records, no anything.
And you know, some of these women were in, and people were in active relationships with their murderers, you know, who were in the closet. You know, some of them don't want to be outed, so they'll kill you because they don't want to be outed. So they'll try to erase you so that no one will ever know that they slept with you. So some of these people were, you know, they were murdered by people that they knew, and they were murdered by people who they were, you know, in a relationship with, you know, because some guys are on, like, they call it the down low, and they don't want anyone to know that they're messing with a trans person because they don't see us as human beings. You know, they feel that, you know, they have the God-given right to take us out whenever they feel like it. And I beg to differ.
Well, we're very lucky because we live here in New York City, and we're all high profile. So we are perhaps a bit more fortunate than people in small rural communities.
Yes.
who are truly outcasts and have, even sex work is not open to them because, you know, nobody would want to have sex with them because it would make whoever had sex with a trans person a pariah. So, I mean, you know.
Well, it's what we're facing, and I think what you're saying is really true. To be near the metropolitan areas is always safer for us from a community standpoint. And as you pointed out, those rural areas, and that includes New York State as well.
Oh, yeah.
When we
Upstate
go out
New
and we do
York,
upstate
sure.
work.
Well, one woman was murdered in Ithaca.
Exactly.
One woman was murdered,
Yeah.
you know.
So this is an issue that we have to be aware of. Absolutely.
Yeah. And
is that one protected by gender? Do you have gender protections, Ithaca?
we do not have...
Well, I think in Ithaca itself, the city itself, it does have anti-discrimination.
Okay, protections.
Right, exactly.
Good.
But now first you have to
get
tell
outside,
the police
but
this.
Right, exactly. But if you get outside of Ithaca,
Yeah.
in anywhere, very few of the counties upstate have any kind of
If
protections.
you're in a cornfield and somebody's trying to kill you, you can't say, "Excuse me, gender, stop, wait."
Well,
Right.
gender has nothing to do with
Right.
violence against us.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, in fact, if it did pass, it would bring on hate crime protections
Right.
that some people in our community are uncomfortable with, but in the big picture, many of our community members want that protection.
Well, I think that protection is extremely important.
Right.
I think, really, anyone who hates us for being trans, that's a hate crime. You know, and
The biggest,
I have been the recipient of several hate crimes once here at the studio.
Oh.
Some woman got in my face and laughed at me and insulted me. And I said, well, I'm going to call the police and sign a complaint against this woman. And the people here said, oh, please don't. The manager, the night manager, as though, you know, blame the victim, you know. I
Yeah.
didn't call the police because she scampered out as soon as she heard I was going to call the police. If you fight back, they get afraid, you know.
yeah. Well, and I think it was very brave what you did, and I think everything that we're doing, the work that you're doing, the work, you know, the constant work that you're doing, making everyone be so
I get
available
insulted
and
in the
out.
streets by people who recognize me. People say, faggot, you know, I saw you on TV, you queer. Well, thank you, my dear fan, you know. I mean, who needs this, you know?
Well, the work that you're doing, I think, is important.
It is,
We
and
need-
the
we
work
need to
that
get this
all of us
information.
are doing is
Yeah.
important.
So we need to continue and actually expand.
Yes, exactly. So next week an hour. No, I'm kidding. Yes, indeed. Well, if people feel afraid and they live in wherever they live, they might even live in New York City, in the middle of New York City. But if they feel afraid, what do you suggest they do? Especially if they're in a small rural community. For example, Brandon Tina was in a small, economically depressed rural community, and you saw what happened. Of Boys Don't Cry fame, Brandon
Exactly.
Tina. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's very hard. And if you're, at least in your mind, the only single trans person in that community,
Out trans person.
out trans person,
Yeah.
I wish I could tell you that there's some superhero pill that you can take that will change things.
Right.
You're probably best served moving. I hate to say this, but the reality is that,
But the economic reality is that often you can't afford to move.
and usually you can't get a job there either. So
Right,
it's,
and
it's,
you
so it's,
don't dare hitchhike because who knows what
Who
would
knows
happen
what.
to you if you tried
it's,
that.
it's a real problem.
Yeah.
When we have done town halls in upstate, and we'll go to a place like Oneonta, and we'll say, well, okay, well, is there a gay bar in town? No, there's no gay bar. Okay, well, is there any? And you reach to try and
Is
find
there
out,
a
and you come.
center?
Is there a center?
What
Is
kind
there?
of
Forget it.
center?
There's nothing.
There's the singer-sewing
There's
center,
Yeah,
that's
well,
it,
yeah,
That's-
there's just nothing there.
Yeah.
So that's why we've taken the time to start trying to connect to upstate.
Upstate New York.
Upstate New York, because there is, I won't say a lot, but there is certainly services for transgender people here in New York City. On Long Island, we have a strong LGBT center. So
Yes.
there are links for us. But upstate, it's like a desert.
Well, upstate is not so much a desert as Middle America, even though it's right here in New York. You're in Middle America.
Yeah, you know, that's why I don't understand.
But
it.
I mean, what I don't understand is that New Orleans, Chicago, Kansas City. I mean, these are not unsophisticated places. I'm surprised that trans people are murdered there.
Well, they're different, though, than New York City.
Yeah.
And you also might find, and this is something we have to talk about, an area that might be very religious.
Yeah.
And because it's very religious, might be very conservative. And because it's religious and conservative, it might be a dangerous place for out transgender people.
Since we're running out of time,
Yes.
I would imagine both of you would recommend to anyone out there throughout the nation to try to move, say, to New York or Los Angeles or even Chicago or New Orleans, I would imagine.
Yeah, well, that's a safe place. Larger cities have the ability for services and centers and things of that nature. So obviously that's a big step. But as you pointed out, if you have no money, how do you get there?
Exactly. And once you get there, what do you do there?
Right.
Okay. How can people contact you?
I'm glad you asked that question because I always bring my little sign with me.
Yes, well, for the visually impaired, it is Juli Grey-Owens, the Long Island Transgender Advocacy Coalition, www.facebook.com, groups
LITAC.
LITAC.
Yep.
Okay, how can they contact Tanya?
They can contact me at tanya@nytag.org, which is Tanya at nytag, NYTAG.org. You can contact me there.
And look, you know, I mean, just the fact that we've done this show and that someone somewhere is willing to run this show and that you can see this show somewhere is a ray of hope. It's not as hopeless as it seems. Remember, trans women have won elected office, including yours truly. If you look me up on Facebook, you'll see I've been elected to 2 things. And anyway, it's not as hopeless as it looks. Hang in there and have faith, and we shall overcome.
Hang in there.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And definitely contact us.
Yes.
Right.
My guests have been Miss Tanya A. Walker, the lady in the center, and Miss Juli Grey-Owens, the lady at the end, who compiled this wonderful, albeit somewhat depressing list. I'm Diana Montford. This has been the Diana Montford Show. I love you a lot. I don't care what you look like, where you are. We're friends, and I love you a lot. And I'm here for you, and I'll see you next time. Love you a lot. Bye. Cut. That was a good one.
Yeah. We
Boy,
got
it's
it
hot
going.
in here.
We couldn't get it. It ended so fast.
Oh, I know. It went pretty well.
Very fast.
I actually noticed that one of them is a, what was the number? There's actually a double, it's, because of the names, it got me screwed
I know,
up. I
well,
saw
yeah.
that. Here it is.
Sometimes-
5 and 6 are actually the same person, I think. No, wait,
No.
let's see. No, that's not it. Where did I see it?
Oh, they're both named Richmond, though. Oh, no, you're right. Tiara Richmond and Tiara Richmond.
Yeah, that's what happened,
Yeah.
5 and 6. So I saw that. That was a problem. And what else did I see? I saw something. Oh, and there was the one that you had, which is the he and the she.
Yes.
What happened was a couple sites reported it as a male and a couple sites reported it as a female.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it turned out that the sites, as you read further, the sites that reported it as female were wrong.
Yes.
That it was actually a trans man.
Right.
But they were,
I will be right back.
yes, figured. So that got a little crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, let me get the other. No, I put it in here.
Yeah, that was the trans man. That was
Yeah, it's Kenneth is the right, but
Yeah, and they had it. They had like something something as a as a gender.
right.
X
So this
something.
was.
Let me see what happened, Kiara.